Omar Khan, Andy Weidel, and the rest of that Steelers staff understood the assignment here in 2024, and I think they have potentially set themselves up to have one of the best offensive lines in all of football. Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Welcome for a Sunday edition of the show, a special Sunday edition of the show. Again, thank you for joining us. But I want to talk here after the draft about what I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have the potential to do at that offensive line spots, all of them, what they have the potential to do here moving forward into 2024 and beyond. I think the Steelers have set themselves up in a way now that you have such a young group, a group that has such high potential to possibly be able to secure one of the best offensive lines in the NFL for many years to come. You look at this offensive line and you look at the way that it was a real issue just a few short weeks ago. People talking about what they needed and the massive holes that they felt like they had. And the Pittsburgh Steelers remained patient here heading into the draft. They made no crazy moves in free agency. They remained steady. And they kept their draft capital. They understood what needed to be done. They understood the assignment here. And the Pittsburgh Steelers remained patient, allowing a guy like Troy Fautanu to make it to him, or to make it to the Steelers at pick number 20. A guy that should have probably been gone within the top 12 to 15 picks in most mock drafts, and pretty much every mock draft that I've seen all offseason had Troy Fautanu going in the top 15, top 12 picks. However, the Steelers were able to remain steadfast and steady and allowed that draft board to continue to just drip down toward them and allowed them, hey, here's our guy. He's coming closer. He's coming closer. Don't make any crazy moves. Just stay put and it'll happen. Good things will happen. You saw the massive amounts of quarterbacks that were picked inside of the top 10. I think it was like 6 in the top 12 or something like that, which is absolutely crazy, which created this draft board to go haywire for a lot of teams. A lot of other teams that don't have steady general managers scrambled, panicked, because they were like, oh shit, what is happening here? Who's our guy? Where are we going to go now? What are we going to do next? However, Omar Khan, Andy Weidel, Mike Tomlin, the Rooney family, they all just stood patiently. And they allowed the rest of the teams to scramble, figure out what they were going to do. And they watched this draft board play right into their hands, especially in round 1 with the addition of Troy Fautanu. And now Troy, looking like a real stud in his highlights, looking like a heat-seeking missile, a real dog, a guy that got a real mean streak in him. But he has one thing that I really love, and that is the variable of what? Team, fight, character, great character guy, great family guy that really wants to be there and contribute and just wants to play football, and he loves the game of football, and he loves his family, and he loves the community already. A guy that really just wants to be a major key, a major part of this franchise in that community. So what a quality pick, guys. And you look at that pick and you say to yourself, how does it get any better than Troy Fautanu? Oh, wait, it can get better. You go into round 2, and then you have a guy in your sights that potentially should have been gone within the top 40 picks. Tons of mock drafts never had him getting out of the top 40, 45 picks. And that was in the low end of where he could have went. And the Pittsburgh Steelers just stood, hey, we're going to stay patient. And they allowed this to all continue to fall to them. Even when a guy like Jackson Powers-Johnson went off the board, Graham Barton already off the board to Tampa, Jackson Powers-Johnson going to Vegas, the Steelers still didn't panic, never made any hasty, crazy moves, and they allowed Zach Frazier to come to them. Now, they have, at pick 51, the chance, and they did. They pulled the trigger. They got a guy in which I think is the best center in this draft. The highest character guy, the guy that works the hardest in my eyes, the guy that just has that fight and care. And that's what you want inside of that building. You want to fill that building with those guys. Not to mention, he's a phenomenal athlete, great leverage, quick first step, real dog. A real dog. And that's what you're looking for. But this video is about this offensive line as a whole and what the potential could be for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. And you see the guys that they already had in place. Broderick Jones, Dan Moore, Isaac Seumalo, Dan Jones. You've had so many players, Nate Herbig, just so many players that were already there that provide a solid base, and then you add the two top picks that the Steelers made here in 2024. Then you add guys like McCormick. You had already depth pieces like Spencer Anderson, Dylan Cook, and then you add some other guys that you have out there that are going to provide some quality depth. But now what? You have created an environment for this Steelers offensive line to possibly be wheeling out there tons of young guys, tons of guys that are on what? Rookie contracts, guys that can be very cheap and give them time to gel and work together and find their chemistry. And it's not costing you a crap ton of money. It's not, you're not overwhelming your salary cap with tons of offensive linemen. You have now the luxury to have an elite offensive line and have it at being one of the cheapest offensive lines in all of football. Now you can move your top pick from 2023, Broderick Jones, back to his position of real comfortability, and that is left tackle. Now you have a guy like Dan Moore Jr. What do you want to do with him? Do you want to dangle him as trade bait? You could. Do you want to keep him as depth? You could. Do you want to allow him to start at right tackle and allow a guy like Troy Fautanu to gain some experience and learn and wait and be patient with him and allow him to grow? And just, hey, we'll wheel Dan out there until Troy's ready? You could. But what is that, guys? Options. And Omar Khan has created options all across this offensive line. And I think just with the youth, just with the way that this Steelers offensive line took a complete 180 after the draft, when you added the depth that you did, it really just gives you insight onto how special this could possibly be. And then they added some other guys here too. Beach, so many other guys, man. It's kind of crazy. I was going through McCormick, Beach, you got Daesh. You got him. You got several others here that they've added, man, that I was just looking at, literally. So many that I can't remember all their names. But I'm just saying, NFL team typically keeps, like 7 to 9 players on the offensive line. You need 5 starters and you have to have some backups. So typically on that roster, you'll see 7 to 9 players. So the Steelers have a real dog group, a group of real dogs, guys that could really have some high upside, high potential. So just say you keep your starting 5. Let's say it's Broderick Jones, Dan Moore, or we'll say we'll take Dan Moore out of that. Let's just say it's Broderick Jones, Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, James Daniels, and Troy Fautanu. There's your 5. Now you could have in reserve Dan Moore Jr., Spencer Anderson, McCormick. There's 8 right there. And then throw in one of the other guys that you may be just comfortable with. There you go. What a solid group that is. Oh, wait, I forgot one. Nate Herbig. There's your 9. There's your 9 guys that you could have that have 1, position flexibility. 2, are very, very young. 3, are very, very cheap. And you have a guy in Dan Moore Jr. that you could use as trade bait for something else. What if you need another wide receiver? What about a Courtland Sutton? Something like that. You can throw in a guy like Dan Moore Jr. and beef up that trade package. There you go. That could be the difference between bringing in one of those veteran wide receivers or not bringing them in. And if you lose him, you're not losing a ton because you've created so many depth pieces, so many options inside of that offensive line room. The options are limitless, guys. And I really had to get on here today and talk about that and just really remind Steeler Nation of how special this offensive line could truly be. They have the real potential here, guys, to be all pros across the board. They have the real potential here to be the best offensive line in all of football. And that's something the Steeler fans really valued back in the days of the Marquise Pounceys, the Ramon Fonsters, the Villanuevas, the David DeCastros, those types of guys. And when that offensive line was elite, you saw this running game be able to go. And I think now, with Najee Harris, with Jaylen Warren, with a guy like Russ Wilson, or perhaps Justin Fields, I think it could be real, real special. And you're bringing in quarterbacks that are both on 1-year deals that are in their first time being with the team, their first seasons with the team. And you bring that in and you are adding an offensive line that they're going to be able to be what? Comfortable playing behind. Which is going to do what? Allow them to be able to learn a little bit quicker. The learning curve is a little bit less because they're not scrambling for their life. They're not running for their life every play. They're going to be able to digest this offense and learn and be able to be patient and take their time and watch their through or get through their progressions and really be able to be just comfortable. And that means so much for the quarterback room. And when you have a quality offensive line, especially a cheap one, that trickles down throughout this whole roster and is really, really, really going to give the Steelers so many options that it's going to be hard to mess it up in my eyes. I really do. Barring catastrophic injuries or, just guys not living up to their potential at all. I think the Steelers really have a real gift that was handed to them here in 2024. When they started this draft, people called this offensive line bad, and they called it one that was in trouble. They really referred to it as a unit that is in trouble and that it needs some major help. Well, Omar Khan and that front office staff did just that. They went out there and they got that help, and they were able to secure this offensive line for the future and what I think could potentially be one of the best in the NFL. All right, guys, I just want to wrap this up. I was so excited, and I still am excited, and I just literally freestyled this. I didn't do any notes. I looked up just some of the players that they had, that they had picked up just to see some names again. But I freestyled this episode off the top of my head because I wanted to give it to you from my gut and what I really feel I think this team could really do. So I did no research from it. I just literally went off the top of my head here, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're as fired up as me because that was as real as I can be. So, yeah. I'm fired up, guys. I think this is has the potential to be something truly, truly, truly special here in the city of Pittsburgh. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have set themselves up in a massive way to be super good across that offensive front. And what does a good offensive line mean? Deep playoff runs. And I think the Steelers Nation, or that Steelers Nation, is ready and starved for a playoff winner. Not any playoff win since 2016, but I think that could quickly change whenever you bring an offensive line in that could be absolutely devastating, absolutely nasty, and allow this run game to really get cooking. All right, guys, until tomorrow, this is Mike Drop Sports, and I'm Jason. And until tomorrow's daily upload, peace.